Have you ever tried to pour water into a cracked jar, only to watch it spill over and leave you empty? It's a quiet ache, isn't it? You give kindness, offer patience, extend grace, yet all you receive in return is emotional pain, manipulation, and suffering that feels unbearable. Why does God allow this? Could it be that in the ache of disappointment, He is teaching you to see with new eyes, to discern what is healthy and what is harmful? When you stay in a toxic relationship, clinging to the hope that your love can change the narcissist, you may begin to confuse enabling with love. But God, in His infinite wisdom, knows that suffering can awaken us to His truth. Like a fire that burns away what is false, emotional pain reveals what we could not see. As Isaiah 43:18 reminds us, "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past." The past cannot change, but the future can unfold when we trust Him enough to let go. So I invite you to pause and reflect. Are you holding on to something God is asking you to release? Have you mistaken suffering for sacrifice, thinking you must endure abuse in order to love well? What if God is allowing this pain not to break you, but to guide you toward freedom, deliverance, and spiritual growth? Let's explore together what God's plan may be for you when you stop striving and start trusting in His timing. Children of the Almighty God, let me ask, have you ever felt the sting of giving and giving, only to realize your kindness has become an open door for someone's manipulation? There's a quiet danger in compassion. Without boundaries, it can slowly turn into enabling. A toxic relationship thrives in this soil, where love is mistaken for permission, and emotional pain grows like thorns in your heart. God, in His wisdom, allows suffering not to break you, but to teach you discernment. Imagine trying to hold water in your hands. No matter how tight your grip, it slips through, leaving you frustrated and tired. That's what happens when you try to fix a narcissist through endless patience and kindness, hoping your love will change them. Proverbs 4:7 reminds us, "Wisdom is supreme, therefore get wisdom." God's lessons often come wrapped in emotional pain, sharpening our vision so we can see beyond the surface charm to the hidden traps beneath. Have you ever wondered why your kindness doesn't seem to soften their heart? The narcissist thrives in the absence of boundaries, weaving lies and manipulation into a web that entangles you. And while you suffer, God is whispering a deeper lesson. Love without wisdom can become a snare. Discernment is the guardrail that keeps your heart safe in the midst of spiritual warfare. C.S. Lewis once wrote that kindness, when misplaced, can become cruelty in disguise. There's a time when love must be firm, when saying no is the most loving thing you can do. Emotional abuse often takes root when we mistake suffering for sacrifice. But God's timing reveals that true kindness does not enable someone to destroy you. Discernment is a gift we must seek with all our heart. There is a cost to ignoring the quiet warnings in your spirit. God, in His grace, allows the emotional pain to grow, not to punish, but to awaken. Every tear shed in a toxic relationship carries a lesson, that boundaries are not a sign of weakness, but a mark of wisdom. When you ignore the signs, you risk being trapped in an endless cycle of emotional traps and manipulation. Have you noticed how suffering has a way of pulling back the curtain on a person's true character? When the narcissist's lies and control seem endless, it's a sign that you've crossed from love into enabling. God's plan isn't for you to lose yourself in someone else's emotional chaos. He calls you to discernment, to trust in Him, rather than in your own efforts to fix what only He can heal. Sometimes we hold on tightly, believing that our kindness will be the key to breaking through the narcissist's heart. But what if God is allowing the suffering to teach you the limits of human love? What if discernment is the tool that leads you to freedom, breaking free from emotional traps and manipulation that are not yours to carry? And as you sit with these questions, you may begin to see how discernment and boundaries are not walls that shut love out, but gates that protect what is sacred. The question lingers: if God is using suffering to teach us, what might happen when we finally let go? Sometimes the ache in your chest feels too heavy to bear, doesn't it? You give, you forgive, you hope, but the suffering lingers. It's as if you're trapped in a room where the air grows thinner with every moment you stay. Your heart cries out for relief, yet the pain remains, and perhaps you wonder why. God's timing, though mysterious, is deliberate. He allows the weight of emotional pain to grow, not as punishment, but as a signal. Like Jonah in the belly of the fish, we sometimes must feel completely trapped before we find freedom. Imagine standing in a burning house, pleading for the flames to stop while refusing to leave the doorway. We long for God to extinguish the fire, yet He waits for us to step out into the fresh air. A toxic relationship often feels like that, full of emotional abuse, manipulation, and false hope that things will change. God's plan for your life is not to keep you trapped, but to deliver you, even if it means allowing the pain to intensify until you see it clearly. Isaiah 43:18 reminds us, "Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past." Yet how often do we hold on, convinced that if we just love a little more, forgive a little deeper, we can fix what is broken? The suffering you face is not meant to defeat you, but to push you towards spiritual growth and emotional healing. God's justice often begins by letting us feel the full weight of our choices, gently guiding us to see that some relationships must be left behind. There's a danger in confusing endurance with obedience. Sometimes we think we're being faithful by staying in a toxic relationship. But what if God is waiting for you to step away so He can bring freedom? Have you noticed how the pain grows louder when you ignore God's quiet prompting to leave? His timing is perfect, and He allows the consequences of enabling to sharpen your discernment until you can no longer deny the truth. There's a deep kindness in God's plan, even in the suffering. It's not to crush you, but to protect you from the long-term damage of staying where you don't belong. Emotional traps can feel like chains, but God's deliverance often comes through hard choices. Are you listening to the quiet nudge of the Holy Spirit, or are you clinging to a past that no longer serves you? Sometimes we need the walls to close in, so we'll finally stop trying to fix what only God can heal. Suffering can be the tool God uses to break the illusion that we can change the narcissist, that our kindness will redeem what is twisted. It's a hard lesson, but one that leads to spiritual growth and freedom when we finally surrender. Have you been waiting for God to remove the pain while refusing to walk away from what's hurting you? What if your suffering is not a curse, but an invitation to trust God's timing and step into the life He's prepared for you? The ache you feel is not the end. It's the beginning of deliverance, if you choose to listen. And as you reflect on these questions, you might begin to see that the pain is not meant to break you, but to open your eyes. If God uses suffering as a teacher, what else might He be trying to show you? It can feel like a heavy chain, can't it? The belief that if you just love hard enough, stay patient long enough, you can change the heart of a narcissist. We tell ourselves that kindness is the key, yet the emotional pain lingers, growing deeper with every act of manipulation. But here's the truth. God allows the pain not to destroy you, but to break the illusion that you can fix what only He can heal. Isaiah 43:18 reminds us, "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past." Have you ever tried to hold on to something that God was gently asking you to release? It's like gripping a rope tighter as it slips from your hands, leaving burn marks, not blessings. The kindness you offer becomes enabling when you refuse to see the toxic pattern. God's plan is not for you to become a savior to someone who refuses to change, but to trust in his wisdom and timing. Wisely, it has been said that love without boundaries is not love at all, but a trap. Emotional abuse thrives when we believe we can control outcomes, when we stay in toxic relationships, hoping our kindness will rewrite someone's heart. But suffering, yes, suffering, becomes the quiet teacher that reveals the truth. God alone changes hearts, not our efforts. Think of pain as a gentle but firm hand on your shoulder, saying, "Look up." Every tear, every sleepless night, every word left unspoken in a toxic relationship is a signpost pointing back to God. It's a call to let go, to stop carrying the burden of another's choices, and to trust in the spiritual discernment he's growing in you. Have you noticed how pain has a way of stripping away illusions? The mask of control begins to crack, and we see the manipulation for what it is. The emotional traps lose their grip when we stop striving and start trusting in God's plan. And while it hurts, there's a quiet freedom in realizing you were never meant to fix what is broken beyond your power. God's timing is not ours, and neither is his method. He may allow the emotional pain to intensify, not to crush you, but to wake you up. Letting go is not giving up. It's stepping out of the trap and into the safety of his hands. As Proverbs 4:7 teaches, wisdom begins when we learn to stop enabling and start discerning. There is a quiet strength in admitting, "I cannot change this." That moment, though humbling, is the doorway to spiritual growth. It's in the breaking that God rebuilds, in the surrender that he sets us free. Pain is not always the enemy we think it is. Sometimes it is the very tool God uses to show us what we could not see before. And as you pause to reflect on this, the question remains, what happens when we stop enabling and truly let go? What might God do in your life once the illusion of control is finally broken? It's a hard truth, isn't it? That in trying to protect someone from the consequences of their own choices, we may unknowingly stand in the way of God's justice. Sometimes we cover the cracks, hoping kindness will heal what only accountability can restore. Galatians 6:7 warns us plainly, "Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. A man reaps what he sows." Divine justice is not a storm we can shield others from without bearing the weight ourselves. Think of it like holding an umbrella for someone standing in a downpour. Eventually, you're the one getting soaked while they remain dry. The narcissist's manipulation thrives when you block the natural consequences of their actions. God, in his perfect timing, uses pain to awaken you to this truth. Emotional healing begins when we stop trying to rescue those who repeatedly harm us. Have you noticed how the weight of enabling feels heavier with time? It's not just emotional pain. It's the slow erosion of boundaries, the blurring of discernment, the growing sense that you're trapped in spiritual warfare you never wanted. God's plan is not for you to stay in that place. His justice moves quietly, but it is sure, and it often starts when we let go. There's a quiet wisdom in stepping back. C.S. Lewis once reflected that God whispers in our pleasures, but shouts in our pain. Could it be that your suffering is God's voice, telling you to release what you cannot control? To stop standing in the gap for someone who continues to manipulate and harm? Divine justice will not fail, but it often waits for us to stop interfering. Have you been clinging to the hope that if you just love enough, forgive enough, the narcissist will change? Yet God allows the emotional pain to intensify, to break that illusion. Your suffering is not a punishment, it's a wake-up call, an invitation to trust His wisdom, to believe that sometimes love means letting someone face the consequences they've earned. When you step back, God steps in. It's in the letting go that He can move, protecting the narcissist from the fallout of their lies and manipulation delays the work God is doing, not only in them, but also in you. Spiritual discernment grows when we learn that enabling is not kindness. It's a barrier to God's justice. What if your pain is a sign that God's justice is ready to unfold? If only you'd stop standing in the way. Letting go is not abandonment, it's obedience. Emotional healing begins when you stop blocking God's hand, when you allow the narcissist's choices to bear their own weight. God's justice is not mocked, and the seeds they've sown will bear fruit, whether you protect them or not. As this truth settles in, perhaps you begin to see, if God is calling you to step back, what happens when you finally do? What freedom and deliverance might unfold when you no longer carry the burden of someone else's consequences? Sometimes the weight of suffering feels unbearable, like trying to hold the ocean in your hands. No matter how hard you try, it slips through, leaving you exhausted and empty. It's in these moments, when you feel the sharp ache of emotional pain and the silence of unanswered prayers, that God whispers, "Be still and know that I am God." Psalm 46:10. Your suffering is not the end, dear friend. It's an invitation to release control and trust God's plan. Have you ever wondered why the more you try to hold on, the heavier it becomes? The narcissist thrives in the chaos, weaving manipulation and emotional abuse into the threads of your life, while you strain to keep peace. Yet, God's lessons are often hidden in the struggle. He allows suffering not to crush you, but to draw you closer, teaching you the deep wisdom of letting go and trusting in His justice and timing. It's like walking through a storm. You can't stop the rain, but you can find shelter under His covering. The pain you feel is not a punishment, but a teacher. Emotional traps, the burden of toxic relationships, and the heartache of enabling are all reminders that we are not meant to fight every battle alone. God's plan unfolds in the quiet, in the waiting, in the moments when we choose to stop striving and simply trust. Have you noticed how pain has a way of stripping away distractions? It sharpens your discernment, showing you who is safe, who is harmful, and what patterns must be broken for true emotional healing to begin. God is not in a to su. So suffering. He is refining you, growing your spiritual strength, and preparing you to break free from the chains you were never meant to carry. Letting go is not a sign of failure. It's an act of faith. Sometimes we think, if we just try harder, pray longer, love deeper, we can change the narcissist's heart. But God's timing is not ours, and He calls us to trust Him, not our own efforts. Freedom begins when we stop enabling and start believing that He alone is the healer, the deliverer, the one who brings beauty from the ashes of suffering. The weight of suffering often presses hardest when God is preparing you for something new. Could it be that the ache in your chest is not a curse, but a signpost pointing toward deliverance? When we hold too tightly to what harms us, we cannot receive the blessings God longs to give. There is a quiet strength that grows when you learn to wait on His plan, even when it feels hidden. Imagine your suffering not as a punishment, but as a refining fire, a tool God uses to strengthen your faith, deepen your discernment, and prepare you for freedom. Pain teaches lessons that comfort cannot. God's lessons are rarely easy, but they are always for your good, leading you into deeper spiritual growth and emotional healing. So as you reflect on this, perhaps you feel the quiet nudge. What is God asking you to release so he can begin the work of restoration? If suffering is an invitation, what might happen when you accept it fully? Choosing to let go, to trust in God's timing, and to believe that freedom is coming, even if you can't see it yet. There's a quiet strength that grows when we choose to let go. Have you paused to wonder what freedom might feel like when you stop enabling, stop rescuing, and start trusting God's justice? The suffering you've endured was never meant to be your final chapter. It's an invitation, a holy nudge to release what is not yours to carry and allow God's plan to unfold in his perfect timing. If your heart feels heavy with emotional pain, manipulation, and broken trust, remember this: God sees you, and his timing is never too late. What might shift in your life if you believe that letting go is not failure, but faith in action? The door to freedom is waiting. Will you step through it? If this message has stirred something in you, I encourage you to like this video, subscribe for more messages of hope, and share this with someone who may need a gentle reminder that suffering has a purpose. In the comments, write, "I choose freedom and trust God's plan." And let's stand together in faith as a community seeking healing and growth.